All right, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for coming to our last social media meetup session of the year for 2025. Our last one we had in person. It was super fun. We had it at Wine Spot. We had lots of new chamber members come join that one, and we just, kind of networked, and it was really fun. So I'm glad to see so many people come to this one, and really excited about our speaker today. So just as a quick little intro about the chamber, the social media meetup group is through the CuyEast Chamber of Commerce. Juliana and Matt Barker, who you see on your screen, are team members for CuyEast Chamber of Commerce and New Image Media, which helps a lot with the chamber. And I, Faith Boone, I'm the vice chair of the board of directors for the chamber, as well as Sheila Gibbons, who is also here with us. She is the treasurer and wonderful other board member of mine here today with us. We're really excited about this. We do the social media meetup groups quarterly. If you guys ever decide you want to do this more often, I'm more than willing to help with that. If anyone would like to help me make that happen. But for right now, they are quarterly. We don't usually have a speaker, so this is really exciting that Amy is here with us today. And Amy is the author of Empower Your Nonprofit, Simple Ways to Co-Create with AI for Profound Impact. And I do know that, yes, the Chamber is very much focused on businesses and helping businesses grow. Nonprofits are definitely thrown into that. And I do feel that anytime we talk about AI, it definitely covers both the business world and the nonprofit world. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Amy so that she can share her lovely presentation. And then at the end, we can wrap it up. Amy did say that this is going to be pretty informal. So if you guys have any questions, you can use your little raise the hand button and she can call on you. Or if you'd like to drop it in the chat, I can pop in for you and read your question for you. That is no problem. At the end, we can have a little further Q&A if we have time, and we'll wrap up with a little notice about some upcoming events for the chamber. Juliana, Matt, did you guys have anything before Amy goes? Nope, good. Juliana, you good? Everybody's good. Amy, it's all yours.
All right. All right, before I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a minute here. I have everything pulled up, so I wanted to introduce myself first. This may be, if you haven't heard a lot of talks yet about AI, which you probably have heard a lot, probably watched some TED Talks, probably seen some speakers, gone to some workshops, but my approach is probably a little bit different. I have been in tech since 1994 with companies like, right, before some, a minute, as the kids say, a hot minute. But since I lived in Los Angeles from 1996 to 2012, where I worked for Yahoo, Monster, AT&T, a bunch of stuff around the .com heyday. I worked with Stamps.com, Pets.com, all those ones that came and went. Stamps.com is still around. But I guess over time I got more and more obsessed with how technology could make the world a better place. So parallel to all my tech adventures has always been an ongoing volunteering nonprofit side of it. So I started my own nonprofit in 2016 that gives away free or very low cost tools, technology, and training to other 501c3 nonprofits. And my mission at that time in 2016 was to use technology to free up human time for things that only humans can do. And boy, was I happy to discover all of this emergence of generative AI. Even though AI has been around since the 50s, it really only has come into our control to use it under the way we want, with personal freedom about what we do with it since the past couple of years. But I often get a little pushback from people who say, I don't like AI. Probably not this group, of course, but in general, people will say, I don't really like AI. I'm not going to use it. But here's the thing, that's not really optional, because if you're not entirely off the grid in the woods with no devices, you constantly have devices using AI all around you. Of course, all of your devices, your watches, I don't have them on right now, but my AI glasses, right? And then, but beyond that, any modern appliances, your car, um, everything, cameras everywhere. AI is everywhere, so you're already using it. You just never had control of it. So I'm also doing a PhD right now, research on this. So I'm trying to figure out how it's impacting human interaction and creativity. So I'm also an artist and an author, and so these things are really important to me. So you put that all together, and something really interesting is happening, and I'm just setting all this up because this is a really important aspect of AI that humanity has only very recently learned, and it's not even really, the studies aren't really published yet, but I'll let you in on something very cool. So there's two ways to use AI, right? The one is sort of lobbing something over the fence. You don't know what happens. It lobs something back. You didn't learn anything, but you got some sort of an answer. It's very generic. It sounds like everybody else's answer. Nobody wants any part of that. It's lose-lose, and it has been shown already to atrophy your brain that way. I'll let you think on that for a second. I also study a lot of neuroscience and consciousness because we're trying to figure out if and when we'll know if AI is conscious and sentient and all that, and we don't have an answer for that yet. So the cool thing is, if you're not using it that way, it's okay to use it like a search tool once in a while. Just give me the answer, right? But if you do that every day, your creativity declines rapidly, and that's already been proven. But on the flip side, the good news is something very different is happening on the opposite approach. So if you start with your thinking first with AI, any AI tool, just sit for a minute and think, what do I want to do? What output do I want? What material should I give the AI to give it more context so it's better when it does its research? What types of sources do I want it to use that are credible? Do I want it to act like it's a McKinsey expert with 10,000 hours of expertise? Or do I want it to give me the answer as if it's explaining it to a third grader? Or do I want it to be a poem written by Michelle Obama? So I get a creative spark. So any of these things are a good way to use AI, because what happens differently is that you start with your humanity and your idea. Everything out from there, you're co-creating, but you're still interacting and learning. Just the process of doing this increases your retention of whatever you just did by 20%. But most interestingly, I noticed this happening to myself. Something's happening where people are learning their learning style. So this is called metacognition. And once you hit this, you can start speed learning really fast, your memory improves, your reading improves, your vocabulary has been improving steadily as you do this. And so they're seeing people almost, as some people are declining because they're leaning too heavily, some people are experiencing a monumental growth in their mental capabilities. It's so real that PhD researchers are now studying this. And I'm one of those people because I noticed this happening, and I've been learning all sorts of new things very fast, because the biggest thing is you start spotting patterns. And once you spot a pattern, you realize that you can take some set of knowledge you already know, and maybe you already know 80% of some new thing and you didn't think about it that way. So you only have to learn the differences, right? So this is something anyone can do if they use it in that way. Most people are not using it in this way, right? So I wanted to set that all up because just to give you a little more enticement, I actually have been doing this. I freed up 30 hours a week for myself. I have hybrid ADHD, so I get up to a lot of things at all times. That means that sometimes I'm inattentive, sometimes I'm hyper-focused. But you put that all together, I've been doing a lot of stuff, probably doing everything 80 hours a week down to 50, but those 30 hours I repurposed all for creativity and flow. So I do martial arts, painting, writing, walking in the woods with no earbuds on. That's the only time that you can really process thoughts, is when you are not absorbing information. So if you have a constant bombardment of songs, books, your screens, reading things all day long, you can't process your best thoughts, right? Only while you're sleeping and when you don't have information coming in. So I started, since I realized this, I started walking more with no earbuds and all this stuff. So not only have I been able to do all this other stuff, but because I'm in creative flow all the time, based on this metacognition knowledge, I also, without even doing anything, lost 60 pounds in the past 8 months. So put it out, and not that everybody needs to lose weight, but my natural weight as when I was younger was different, and I think you start gravitating towards your sort of highest and best self. Your body naturally, when you're in flow, does that. And so I'm a real testament to this metacognition thing working. So I just wanted to say this isn't hypothetical, anything I'm going to talk to you about. All right, does that sound interesting to anybody? Okay. So now I'll share, we are going to talk about how to spot deep fakes, how to spot images that are transformed or manipulated or fake. But beyond that, we're also going to talk about all the massive time advantages that you can get and all the creativity that you can co-create with AI if you are thinking about it and being transparent about it in the right way. I think I've already tried so many different types of things that have blown my mind. Every day I push the boundaries of all these tools to see, can you do this yet? And I think every day they're surprising me with what they can do. And as an artist, I do create AI art along with probably 30 other mediums. And it's one of the most difficult as an artist if you have something specific in mind. Luckily, super easy to use to make something cool if you are just sort of approaching it like, hey, I want to do something really interesting for this campaign. It's pretty fast. It still takes a little time. If you have something very specific in mind, you could spend hours on it. It takes me longer to make AI art in a specific way than I could probably paint it, draw it, and some third medium in the same amount of time. So it's not a matter, I like it because you can create things that would be very difficult to create in any other medium. Very detailed, it's just a different medium. So I have a lot of thoughts about all of that. I will say, just to throw out one more question that I get a lot, some people approach this, especially some professors, although it's changing, as if AI is quote unquote cheating. Okay, we've heard this all the time. It's cheating. It is if you use it into lobbing it over the fence, ruining your brainwave, of course, and that's what people want to avoid. There's a Wharton professor who wrote a book called Co-Intelligence, Ethan Mollick, and he insists in every of his MBA classes that every student uses AI. But what he does is he tells them, here's what you need to read, ask your favorite bot to write a report on it, and now you need to contest what it says with your own words. I love this because now you're taking a tool and using it the right way, right? You're using it, but you're stopping and thinking. So this is the secret. This is the golden ticket to anything you want to do, and freeing up time and creativity and flow is start with your brain and then think of tasks that it can help you with, and you can free up hours a week. So this is sort of my new mission in the world because I didn't know that this was happening. It's happening to tens of thousands of people right now, this metacognition thing. So it's not just me and it's not my imagination. I can see why it's working. But if you keep that in mind, it makes it even more exciting to try all these things we're going to talk about, because not only is it going to free up time for you to go take a walk in the woods or do anything you like, spend time with family, sleep, stuff like that, but also the process every day of doing a couple different things here and there is going to actually elevate your mind, as long as you're starting with your own creativity, which you already have. So you're kind of in the perfect situation. You have a lot of creativity. You're already using it. You're already using a lot of the tools, which of course all have AI in them. So, if you're a graphic designer, you've been using AI assisted tools forever. You just didn't necessarily think about it that way, right? But each time you use these different systems, you're learning a little more. You're connecting more dots. You're seeing more patterns. You're learning, this is how AI thinks about it. So now I could just go think about it like that. You're seeing where does it pull research from, and this is whether it's doing. You can start doing prompts, and you can see if I change it by this. If I change it like this, how does the image change? And it's just like speed learning. Your trial and error is instantaneous. Which, of course, if you've been in this for a minute, and I've been in marketing simultaneous to the nonprofit stuff a really long time, you sometimes, it's just surprising all this is happening, and you have a lot of skills, and you're using it already, but you're not using it this way. I think. Take all that aside. One of the things that I do for marketing or anything else, I just pull out my phone, open up ChatGPT, talk to it, explain like I'm talking to a friend or I'm brainstorming with a business colleague. Just talk and talk, and you can tell it as much as you want. Give it the context. Here's what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, whatever crazy idea. Crazy being good, and then it'll answer you with voice. So you could do this hands free while you're talking, driving. I do that a lot. Ask it to dive deeper. It'll all be written down later, so you could go back to it. But you can ask it, oh, give me 10 white papers on that and summarize all of them and cite your sources in a bibliography. I always ask it to cite sources, by the way. So all of this is as easy as that. And if you've used one tool, you've used them all. So since y'all probably use all the tools, none of these will have any surprises. You upload something, it's a circle with a plus. And then there's a homepage, you go there, you make a new thing. I made a whole video with on Hey Jen, I made a whole video the night before I did a talk. I had never used this particular video tool before. It took me 20 minutes to think of the process, ask ChatGPT to write me a script in 10 different languages, a short script, shortened it a little to fit into the video thing, uploaded my headshot, and then it proceeded to make an animated video of me speaking, like this. 10 different languages flawlessly back to back that I played in my session, and people couldn't believe it. I tried to duplicate this recently, and I think I went in on a different screen, so it said we can only do one language at a time. But it did it before because it's in there still. So I think sometimes if you go through one screen, social media platforms talk about things that change all the time. Just when you get the hang of any of the dashboards, they switch it all of them. So y'all are familiar with this too, but I couldn't believe it because between the time that I opened it up, uploaded the script, I did the script before, that didn't take too long, opened it up, the whole thing took me 20 minutes between signing up and finishing it in 10 different languages. I want you to think about that for a minute, because even my AI glasses can instantly translate languages back and forth. And of course, you could do that on ChatGPT a year ago. You just talk, they talk, you talk, they talk, it translates instantly. So, and there's devices you can put in your ear, of course, the glasses. There's no barrier to travel anymore if it's language-based, as long as you have Wi-Fi. I learned in China that you don't always have Wi-Fi, and a lot of sites, of course, because of differences in opinion about things. You can't use Google. You can't use a lot of most of the things that you use in the United States, etc. But as long as you have Wi-Fi, you can do a lot of stuff now, including travel anywhere or translate all your materials into multiple languages, right? So if you work with a lot of immigrants or people who speak different languages, it's super easy to translate it. It's a very high rate of accuracy, probably better than human, probably way better than human at this point. And so this is a big, anytime you can knock down barriers for people, this is really important, right? Especially as someone in marketing, a marketing expert, it's about engaging and connecting. And the better you can do that, even changing some of the way that the emotion behind something or the audience. So you could say in one campaign is targeted to professionals for LinkedIn, and one is targeted towards moms with kids on Facebook. But it's completely different personas, and you can have it help you even shift the language so that it matches better what that persona would be interested in. So y'all know all that part. Now you want to know about the deep fakes and everything, right? So now I'll share the screen. But I wanted to set that up first because I think the way I approach it, because this whole metacognition thing is brand new and not even researched thoroughly yet. But I'm so passionate because I've just seen such a change in how I feel every day, more joyful and creative and energetic and all that stuff. I feel like really driven to let people know that it's really important to do it this way, because the alternative is not ideal, right? I'm sure we all want to increase our capabilities day over day. We certainly don't want to forget how to do stuff on our own. That doesn't seem like a good idea, and that is what's happening. So all that to say, since I'm doing research on this, it's important for me to share what I've learned so far. And now, that's a lot of build-up, so all right. There we go. Can you see this? Let me see.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I am going to tell you that the process I used to create this presentation, I'm going to walk through that as part of what I think will be very helpful for marketing at the end. But I did create this whole presentation with a tool called Gamma. I'll just talk you through the process really quickly now. So what I do is I do a lot of research, primarily on with some AI bots, but also I just look at YouTube videos and TED Talks and things like that. And then once I've done the research on a particular topic, this one I already know, but if you let's say you're researching a new topic, this is a good way to go about it. Or if you're doing a new campaign or working with a new client. So I will do some bot research to give me an idea of a path, and then I will do some exploration on my own. I'm a very audible learner and visual learner, which, by the way, 2/3 of the country is mostly a visual learner, or humanity is mostly visual learner. 1/3 is audible. Only about 5% is kinesthetic and 5% text. So think on that when you think about how important it is to create all these different types of media. And now you can create 10 different types of media in less time than it used to take to do one. So what's nice about this is it's also like removing the language barrier, removing learning barriers. So as someone with hybrid ADHD, which is a combination of inattentive and hyperfocus, something like having the ability to listen to a podcast is enormously helpful for me. That's my preferred way of retaining information, or video. Statistics, very, very small percent of the population resonates with statistics. Under 10, probably 15%. It's probably closer to under 10%. But what's important about this is a lot of boards are comprised of people who are numbers oriented, as they probably should be. So you got some lawyers, you got some accountants, operations people, and that's the personality that loves the numbers and statistics. So as a marketing person, sometimes it's hard because maybe the board or a particular person who is one of the rare people who is most interested in these types of things, as far as how they remember things, will say that they don't like videos or podcasts. They really prefer to see a campaign that has a lot of numbers and statistics, and that is true for them, but not 95% of the rest of the world, right? So what happens is that campaign will fall flat because no one understands it or remembers it, not because it's not fabulous, but because it's not in a. It's like if you went to France and all of your materials were in Portuguese, then some people in France speak Portuguese, but most people would just look at it and go, I don't care about that. So this is what happens with statistical-based campaigns. They can't resonate with people because from a neuroscience perspective, such a small percent of people cares to learn that way. And I don't think most people know that. All right. So once you go through, what I did for the rest of this process is take your knowledge first, use that to start, learn, go back to the bots, and now you can say, here's what I do. I say, give me a full deep dive report on this with an executive summary of what the topic is. Okay, then I have that document. But what I do with that is I go over to Google Notebook, and there's others that do this. I upload it, and it gives me a podcast between two people debating the merits, the top things about it, everything you want to know about it. It's a very well thought out, makes sense, hits the highlights way, and it's really awesome. It also makes mind maps, videos, quizzes, flashcards, and a couple other things. But then I just play that back, and now I ingested exactly the material I'm going to use to make my presentation in a number of different ways. This is why I'm learning so fast, or anyone who does this is learning so fast, the metacognition thing. You're layering it in the way that your brain works, however that works for you. This is how it works for me. So you go through those steps, listen to the podcast, and then I also ask, usually I'll listen to that, put that back into ChatGPT and ask it to make a presentation based off of how that turned out, a presentation prompt. Then I upload it to something like this, Gamma, there's a million of them, and it does a really good job. So this whole thing, I didn't edit one bit of this, and it made all the images. I will say though that I have been training my pro ChatGPT account for a couple years now, so this is close to, this is unusual style for me, but I kind of liked the way it went, so I left it. But I've trained it on my aesthetic style for images, my voice if I'm pitching to speak somewhere, and my voice if I'm doing something else. It's got a lot of this in the background, so it gets faster over time. But that's the process I use for this. And what happens by doing all of that, of course, and then reviewing the slides is now I've seen it 5, 6, 7 different ways. I've seen videos that gave me the ideas for it. I co-created everything back and forth with the report, listening to it, pointing out things I liked or didn't like, reevaluating it, co-creating the next step, co-creating the next step. So now I'm remembering it 20% better, at least statistically, from the interactive learning and co-creating. And now I have all the materials done in a fraction of the time. So what's beautiful about this is, let's say if you're doing a presentation and you do it in this style and you get there and the technology doesn't work, guess what? You still know it. But now you permanently have it in your brain. And if you can keep things permanently in your brain, then you don't really have to worry as much about whether you have Wi-Fi or whether the internet goes down for a day or a week or a month or who knows, right? So I think it's good to learn all these things and to think about it. And by the way, one of my favorite tips is, if you don't know if something can be done on AI, ask it. And if it can't do it, it'll tell you how a workaround or a tool that can do it. And then you jump over there, learn that. It's almost like speed learning, but it's so fun and you don't even notice that it's happening. And you end up with a cool presentation in a fraction of the time it used to take you. All right. So we're going to cover, and I'm going to look at my monitor for some of this because some of the words are kind of small. What we're going to cover is the landscape, why it matters, a couple of tactics you can use to detect it, protection and creative strategy, and then what's next. And then some of these are guidelines. I think I'm a huge fan of using AI as long as you're clear about it and you're not trying to use it for manipulative purposes, which no one on this call would do. So here we go. Okay, so unless you're using it for manipulative purposes, anything generated by AI is called synthetic. So there's a difference there, of course. A deepfake has a negative connotation. So it would not be associated with anything that you would do for a marketing campaign. That would just be called synthetic. Synthetic images, synthetic videos, right? And then there are others. If you have something, one quick way to spot it is if it evokes some overly strong emotion or urgency. If it makes you very upset, very sad, extremely angry, extremely happy, it's too good to be true, unrealistic. Just be concerned. There's a lot of scams now based on fear and urgency, like the ones where they'll sample someone's voice from social media and then call and pretend it's that person's kidnapped and things like that. And you do need to have a conversation with loved ones ahead of time for some sort of a code or a password that only the person would know. It'll just set your mind at ease that it's fake, because it'll always be fake. But then you'll feel better. It's a big problem. It went up in 2023 900%, but I know it's gone up 2100% this year. So it's to the point that it's anybody's bet what's real and what's not as far as images and videos, if you don't know the things that we're going to look at. But for the most part, synthetic isn't bad. It's just, if it is used in manipulative ways, such as in election campaigns, for example, then it could really steer people in a direction that is not factual or accurate, or is full of psychographic messaging that incites anger or division or something like that. So what you want to think about is, this is happening all over the place, mostly with good intention. A lot of people, like nonprofits or marketing people, are using it to better portray what they want people to understand about their work, and that is a good use case of it. And everybody knows some of the bad use cases. So let's talk about how we separate those. Okay, why do we care? many reasons. Probably a lot of people here have at some point had a fake profile using their picture, or something similar happen with an account where it's just a an exact duplication, right? So that's brand impersonation. It could happen to your brand or a nonprofit or you personally. So that's what that is. And then also, recently this is getting so sophisticated that a couple CEOs, there was one where, I forget the name of the company, but the CEO's voice was cloned so perfectly, and they called their finance manager, and this person, because the voice was so good and it was executed very well from a scammer's perspective, then they ended up wiring a couple $1 million to a quote unquote supplier because the CEO said so, and it was so flawless that they didn't know. So the way to prevent something like that is to think about these things in advance. If you ever get a phone call, hang up and call the person. That's it. That's the way to get around that for now. Yeah, and then one of the things that you hear a lot is clients can be a little price sensitive time to time, especially in the nonprofit sector, which is fair. They want that money to do good work, not necessarily to pay for marketing campaigns, right? Which is valuable to pay for. So that being said, they are looking for something cost effective. And so what's great about if you're a marketer is you can use most of your time in your highest, best, most creative realm of your brain and your mind and your creativity, instead of doing all the tasks that take your time but aren't really adding as much value as your creativity to someone's campaign or whatever you're working on. So what's about this is it does provide you with doing more fun and interesting things that test your strategy and capabilities a little bit more, and it costs less to execute. So maybe you could charge a little less from time to time depending on what type of campaign it was. So it feels very win-win that way. Ultimately, even right now, there are entire marketing agencies springing up that only create synthetic materials like images and videos. So I think this is a very well accepted practice. I think people are seeing how incredibly creative it can be to create AI art and videos on your own, especially the better you get at it and the more context you give it, the better you are at prompting, telling it what you want, what format you want. If you're an artist or artistically inclined, which if you're in marketing, you're artistically inclined. So if you're artistically inclined, then you can go in and really play around with some of your visions in your mind and see if you like it. Or you can A/B test with yourself, right? You could say, I'm kind of thinking for this campaign, or I really want I want to evoke the emotion of this. Try a couple images. Does it evoke that emotion? Is this one more than this one? Do you like something, and then you can do it so fast. So you can iterate so fast, do your own A/B testing with, the one person test group. And then you could even do actual A/B testing really easily. You could ask a bot to say, okay, I'm doing this new campaign. I need some Instagram posts. I'm really trying to resonate with this type of persona, busy moms, let's say. Why don't you give me a couple of ways to say that, and then give me a couple of images to match them. I'm going to run both of them on a targeted Facebook campaign back to back, and then once we see the winner, we'll launch our whole campaign because we'll have statistics that show us that one works the best. So you have a lot of possibilities with this, and I would embrace that side of it while being a little wary of ones that are intentionally manipulated so that you have some sort of reaction, which is hopefully a smaller group, but there will be points where it will spike when people want you to do certain things. All right, so how do you spot it? Oops, I went one slide too far. Okay, so here's just a few ways to spot it, and I think that because as humans, we've been scanning and in real life things so long, it's almost like you sense something is different, even if it doesn't have 6 fingers. Sometimes you can just tell from the expression in the eyes. Maybe you can't even put your finger on it, but it's a little off from how we're used to perceiving actual people, for example, or actual scenarios. So you may notice it without zoning in on these things, but they're getting so good now that these are some of the giveaways, but it's so impressive now that these are probably also not going to be around too much longer. So the eyes and the blinks. Now, I don't mind videos that are fake, like animals rescuing animals, or there's a lot of those out there that are not real, or people who have really great content on LinkedIn sometimes will start making their content into videos that it's their avatar and their voice that they've put in somewhere. And I don't mind watching that. I know it's not real. I can tell it's not real, but it's pretty close. And I'm as much entertained by it as I probably would be with a real one. And I know it's not real, but the content is still real and valuable, useful, helpful, and relevant to me. So I don't mind it. It's just a matter of, you can notice in those, if you see them, that it's pretty good, but there is some repetition, which is a giveaway. So the head always tilts like a little like this, and then and it goes in a pattern. It's getting much better. And the eyes and the lips, you can still see a little bit. Some of these other ones you might not have thought about or noticed quite as much, and that would be examining the edges, hairlines, jawlines, different skin tones that are wildly different right next to each other. Lighting mismatches, this is a big one. Lighting and reflections. So AI is good at mimicking things, but it doesn't understand the physics of reflections. So it may reflect back something that is the wrong angle of whatever is actually in the picture and things like this. So a lot of the lighting, the shadows might be wonky. Things that are normally parallel in nature are a little off, these kind of things. So lighting mismatches you can spot pretty easily. Audio, this would only be not on images, but you could tell if there's no background, if the background doesn't match whatever it is, then that's a giveaway. And also here, the too perfect, too convenient. This is where a lot of the animal videos, it would never, you kind of sense it could never really happen in real life, but it looks so convincing and it's so cute. So here's the thing, if you can evoke actual emotion, as long as people don't feel tricked, I think that's a brilliant thing to do from like a nonprofit. If you really want to share a story, for example, about why your nonprofit is such a great thing to do, why your nonprofit does such a great job, I'm sorry, my headset was doing something weird, then this is a great way to help use synthetic images or videos to portray something very genuine. That's a good use case. It's just when you're trying to manipulate something intentionally in a bad way that it is less, people don't like that. No one likes to be manipulated. But if you're doing it in a good way where it would be, I guess if it would be equivalent to how you would do it in real life. So if you can get a client or someone that you work with at your nonprofit to give you a testimonial in real life, even if you shoot it on your phone, awesome. You could also get a written testimonial from them, ask them if it's okay, and then maybe make a video just with their, quotes or pullouts, or them if they can speak it even. There's many different ways to do it. Or you could even ask, a lot of people make similar types of materials using AI because it's way less time intensive and resource intensive. So if you're using it sort of to portray something similar, I think it's okay. It's just the manipulative part that we all don't do that is what people don't like. Okay, so how do you make sure that all this is working in the right way? So what you want to do, of course, I do this 100% of it. I never reshare anything before checking it for obvious reasons, I hope. But you can also, there's a number of different things that you can do. Like of course, you want to verify. If it's something political, for example, you could go to Snopes, snopes.com, if you haven't heard of it. There's other ones, but just throw it into your favorite search tool and ask if it's true. is blah, blah, blah true? If you put it in Google, it'll say, no, this has been proven false. And it'll tell you why. Or it'll say, yes, some of this is true, some of it's not true. Here's 3 articles about it, and here's why it's true or not true. Just verify. It takes 2 seconds. Always do that. If you want to know if it's real or fake from a generation perspective, there's other ways that you can go about that we'll talk about. You can watermark your content if you want. This may be unnecessary for most people, but it's not too hard to add a watermark. There's lots of tools, Canva, all sorts of tools that you can do that in, and it's a possibility. It probably is unnecessary for most people on this call, is my guess. And monitor. Google Alerts and social listening tools. So some of you may already have some tools that you use. If it's easy enough and free to set up Google Alerts, so you could put your organization's name in quotes. Make sure it's in quotes so that you don't get a bunch of things with those separate words in it. And you could also just, on a regular basis, scan for news articles about your organization or hashtags that you use. There's lots of tools, of course, to track hashtags. And AI is great at picking the right hashtags, by the way. I taught a course recently, a workshop at CuyEast. As actually the end of last year, but one of the people in the group said that she sold things on Instagram and had been for a while successfully. And she started using AI to write all her descriptions and pick the hashtags, and it saved her 45 minutes per post to do that. So this is where you start getting these economies of scale for your own time, right? So this is if you save, and now this is a while ago, maybe you only save 15 minutes every time. That's still, if you're posting a lot, that's a lot of time, right? Well, if you do 4 a day, that's an hour. So now you got 5 hours free a month, 20 free hours in, 5 free hours a week, 20 free hours in a month. What is that? 100 hours? I'm getting carried away. But anyway, you can see that even if you had 5 hours every week, there's probably other things you would do. Or if you, sometimes I actually love going into social media, but let's say you don't like, emails or running spreadsheet reports. There's so many tasks that can be offloaded. So whatever you personally love to do within, whether it's personally or from marketing perspective, free up time via the things you don't really care about that don't have much impact on your thinking. Like, we all know everybody's good at emails because we've all been writing emails forever. So we don't need to prove that in the same way that we don't need to prove we can do math. We just use a calculator because nobody does math longhand. Why? You can if you keep it practicing, right? I don't think I could do a lot of it right now. But point being, even with a tool like a calculator, though, if you're trying to do math and you don't know how the math works, the tool's not going to help you. So with AI, you all already know all of this from using all the tools that were specifically built for this before a lot of AI was embedded even. It all has AI embedded now, but now you have full control over it. So you could just start doing all of this anytime that you want. And the secret is it's super easy. It's literally as easy as doing it every day. And this will train your brain in an astonishingly good way as long as you're starting with your ideas first. So for this, you can do all these things, and then the more you're actually playing around with, okay, I have this other thing that I do a lot. Ask your favorite bot, how could I automate pieces of this process so that I keep my creativity in the loop, but cut down the time by half? And it'll tell you. It'll say, do these things. Here's 3 ways I could help you with these things to save half the time, and you'll still have the same result because you're still starting with your fresh ideas. You're just not doing all the tedious tasks that take all your time away from those amazing creative ideas, right? So synthetic media, always disclose. Now, there's many different ways to do this, and I don't even know how much people care or pay attention to this, but I'm a big fan of transparency. So you can, as long as you're telling people that you did it, I think it's fine to use AI. In fact, I use AI for in some of my classes for my PhD, but with, of course, my professors know that I'm doing research on it, so it's kind of interesting plot twist. But I'm a big fan of using AI for anything that is authentically feels like you would do anyway, but save time doing it. And maybe it's something that physically people couldn't do before AI. Like there's a lot of art that it just wasn't really possible to make either videos or images that look this good until very recently. It gets better every day. So you can do a lot of what looks like photography. If you have the ability to do actual photos of your clients and real people, it's still much preferred overall. But this is time consuming and expensive in some cases. And so it's a great way to fill in some gaps with some great artwork. It's something that you can become really good at over time, so that then you can get really good and know how to describe the hue of a color, or the tone, or the color, or the emotion you want, or the background that you want at such and such of an aesthetic. But the more you do it, the beautiful thing about this is you really don't need a lot of training. You don't need degrees. You don't need to know any technology. You can write code with AI now. You just need to know what you're trying to do. And more importantly, what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish by doing any of this, right? So if your goal is to help your organization reach 10% more people in a month, then work backwards from that and figure out the bits and pieces involved with that, and then which pieces could AI do that it's really good at? You know, if you had a complex mathematical equation, you wouldn't try to work it out by hand, I hope. You would use, like scientists and mathematicians do now, and physicists do. They use AI these things. You know, this is how Google was able to map 200 million proteins folds in human DNA. It's how Google is able now to, they've notified 460 million people in the past, I think, 2 years about flood zones days in advance. It's how the World Food Program has cut their expenses globally, which they're part of the United Nations, the World Food Program. So in crises, they provide food. They've cut their expenses by about 25% using AI predictive modeling to get goods and food into places of civil unrest, climate change affected weather, and other situations well in advance. So from a humanity standpoint, the people are better off. It costs less. It's much more productive. So think it's the same process being used everywhere, but you can do this yourself with your own brain right now by doing the things. That's the shortcut. Learn about the things is okay. Do the things. This is where you get to the metacognition really fast. So anything that we're doing here, you just start trying them, and I think that that's where you're going to start having the breakthroughs, because you'll say, oh, I really like it when I do it that way. Oh my gosh, I saved so much time, and look, it turned out great. You know, and I think it's a fun place to get to. And here, of course, the multilingual, we talked about that, but you can make videos in multiple languages. You can make a video. You could make a series of videos for, let's say, your top 50 donors. You could take a headshot of your executive director or CEO, yourself, whoever is the spokesperson, and do like I did with something like, hey, Jen, make a video, make the script. You can make a bunch of scripts back to back in any bot. Hey, Jane, we are so appreciative of your gift of blah, blah, blah last year, and the fact that you came to 2 of our events. And you could just do this with voice if you wanted to, just do them back to back to back. What would you say to Jane if Jane was sitting across from you? Just do this, bop over there, and you could probably make 50 videos in a very short amount of time compared to how you would used to do it. And you wouldn't have to have that person sit for any of the videos or write a script or any of that. All you have to do is upload their picture and the script and duplicate it 100 times and send them out, you know, customized videos. And you can say that you are interested in doing innovative things, and so you wanted to see their reaction to this. And I think a lot of people would experience it as something emotionally resonant and interesting, as long as you explain that it's an innovative way to approach things, right? Set the tone so that they're not surprised. I think people would really like something like that until it gets too overused. which I don't think will be anytime soon, but maybe next year this time. Just think to try. And of course, you can also change content. I think everyone's familiar with Instagram and filters and Snapchat and TikTok and all that kind of stuff. Right? Oop. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of malicious deepfakes these days, but here are a couple of examples. It's something to think about. If you have clients that you're working with, this is a good note to say, just think about some of these things in advance. So if something happens, people will probably know it's a deep fake, but you should have something that you do. So I spoke yesterday at Cleveland Data Days, and then another panel that day was talking about fraud and things to do, because in our current environment, certain executive directors of organizations are getting doxxed, which means somebody is maliciously publishing and sharing widely their private information, like a phone number or their address, right? It's very dangerous. And it's something that if it happened to you and you weren't prepared, it's a lot of chaos. But if you think about it a little bit ahead of time and just have a plan for all these things, like, okay, you have a meeting and you tell everybody, if you get a call from the CEO you weren't expecting, say, hey, let me call you back. That's it. But if you didn't think about it ahead of time, you might not think about it at the time for any of these things. So just think about it, have a plan, go through it, write it down if it's important, share it with everybody. And now it's just removing something that could be really chaotic and making it simmer down real fast, and everybody calmly reacts instead of overreacting and making it worse, as we've seen some people make missteps in marketing have done, and that does not work well. So planning is better than reacting. And then you can read the rest of these, and I will share this after. Okay, so what does the future look like? Right now, everybody's trying to figure out the best way to detect things. And of course, you can do a Google image search. You can look at the metadata. If it's been stripped or is missing, and this is only if you really have a hard time telling. But all of this is going to be eliminated because this is a global problem now. So there's going to be regulation, just like we saw when there were the fake Taylor Swift videos. Then immediately there was legislation at that time about personal, I forget what it's called, but impersonating someone like that. Not that that will necessarily stop it globally, but at least there's something in place to take some sort of an action already, and that will continue. I think there's already a lot of interesting stuff happening in the video world, and because YouTube is used by 93% of younger people, younger age demographic, it's the highest social media by far. And also it's owned by Google, so it comes up super high in search. So if you don't already have a YouTube channel and you're not already making videos for YouTube, do that first. But so there'll be regulation. There's going to be a lot of people making very cool videos, which I like. I really like the democratization of art. So I don't have an art degree. I've learned everything myself. And I've even started teaching classes. I have an art studio for the past few years in Coventry. But I always tell people, I used to set up all my art supplies and have, when we had open studio days and people would come in with canvases and paint set up, and they would be so surprised that they could paint. But guess what? They never tried it before because they didn't have a studio to walk into and just have stuff set up and someone to help them. And so I think everybody has an artist and a writer and a musician and a dancer and someone from the theater inside of them. And now people can see that. They can easily go to one of these tools and say, oh my gosh, I might have a knack for, I always wanted to be a movie director. Oh my gosh, I'm good at it. I can make these crazy fun shorts that everybody loves. So there you go. Now you're making movies. But it would have been really hard before because you had a lot of other steps. Knowing a lot of people in the Hollywood scene, it is impossible, really, unless for very few can do it, but everyone can do this, right? Everyone can start here and do amazing things. And then I think way before 2028, it will be completely normal. It will be less important whether something was manufactured traditional ways or synthetically. It will be more about, is this valuable? Is it real? Can I tell if it's valuable or real? Do I feel manipulated? Are my emotions spiking in a weird way that I feel I need to react? So it's probably fake. Probably intentionally created to do that to people, which is terrible, but real. And so I think this is all merging exponentially faster than people thought. I published my book with Wiley, Empower Your Nonprofit: Simple Ways to Co-Create for Profound Impact, in November last year. And I started writing it a year before that. I kind of pushed it quickly. I wrote it in about 9 months. I think the average is about 18 months, but it was kind of had to do that because it was the first book about generative AI for nonprofits. So much was happening. It was like I just felt I needed to do it quickly. And I think in that book, I worked with Craig Newmark, the founder of Craigslist, a couple of different projects. And I interviewed him for my book. One of the things that kind of startled me was he's been in AI for 50 years, literally, right? Since a long time, longer than most. And he and people he knows who have been in it that long are really surprised how fast all this is going. I think even Sam Altman of OpenAI, and it's going much faster than anyone thought, even probably a year ago. So I think this will be very compressed. We'll probably hit this by the end of 2026, but this is a good thing to think about. And if any of this makes you feel panicky, please don't, because it's so super easy to learn. If you're in marketing, you've been doing every single skill that's required for being an excellent prompter across all of these for a really long time already. It's just one more tool, but the thing is, it's so powerful that instead of like search being a choose your own adventure, here's some links, good luck, right? I mean, they're relevant links, but it's a lot of information on the internet. This just gives you the answer. And I love that. As long as you want the answer that you've co-created, though. So think about all these things, and it is super easy. It is just as easy, like I said, use it, just voice, that's fine. Hey, I have a question about this. Or, hey, what is the meaning of the word blah, blah, blah I just heard? Or, hey, you know what are 10 super crazy ways that I could make a campaign that no one's ever done before? What are 10 more? Okay, combine those. Okay, tell me what are the 20 best practices for short videos made by AI right now? Okay, great. And this is what I'm talking about. You could just do this. Don't hold your phone while you're driving, but you know what I'm talking about. You could just be driving hands-free. Oh, I have another question. If you have ADHD, you're familiar with this pattern of thinking. It just kind of branch all over and then come back and branch all over and gather information, come back. But you're really learning really in a compressed style. And everyone can do that. It's asking better questions with more context and understanding what you want first before you get started. All right, so here's a little action plan for you. Set up a Google Alerts, train your team on this information, bookmark some reverse image search tools. And this month, create a response protocol like we just talked about. Experiment with one new AI content tool. I will tell you one dashboard I love is Poe, like Edgar Allan Poe, P-O-E. Like a dashboard of all sorts of tools. And you can usually get like one model behind of the pro version of the other one. So like a phone, the one comes out and the last one is like way cheaper, but almost identical. So Poe is a platform, you can use it free or a paid version, but the paid version includes paid versions of a lot of other stuff. What I like about it best, though, is that if you do a search or you use something, a little project that you would normally do with ChatGPT, once you get the answer, there's a button at the bottom that you can request answers immediately from any other bot. So you just hit a button and Gemini does it. You hit another button and Claude does it. Hit another button and someone else does it. So you can kind of like see their different personalities, right? Because all these AI tools are a little bit like humans. They have different personalities. They specialize in different things. They have different backgrounds. And so you can that's a good one to play around with all the different types of tools, image makers, video makers. Video makers across the board are extremely limited because it's super compute intensive. Just like deep research, it's very limited but very awesome. So I do have a website that I built with a business partner. Actually, he built this, but I have some other pieces on it. But it's called thrivenai.ai that I also share. That has all of these sites I'm talking about are all on there too. I would think about your content guidelines and your disclosure policies. It doesn't have to be over the top. I don't think it needs to make it sound like it's a bad thing at all to use AI. It just is what it is. It's enhanced synthetic content or whatever you want to say, or made with AI or enhanced with AI. However you want to say, just have a way to say it and be consistent. And then audit your online presence for vulnerabilities. Develop a synthetic media strategy. So this is a good time to have a conversation. Are we comfortable with all of it being synthetic? Do we want some blend of it? Do we want very little synthetic except for certain things? It's just have a conversation. Have people involved. People are much more excited about using things if they're involved in deciding to use it.
Thank you so much, Amy, for that wonderful presentation about AI. I learned a lot myself. I hope everybody else in the room learned a lot too. Definitely with my business, we use AI often, depending on if the client wants you to use it specifically or if we're using it just to help us, garner some concepts. So I really found this presentation very informative. And thank you for all the resources. I wrote down the resources for myself. I put one in the chat. I put co.com in the chat. I did already go to the website. I downloaded the application onto my Mac, so now I have access to all of these great AIs. So that's really awesome.
Action taker, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so that was awesome. Thank you so much for that, everyone. Thank you again for showing up for this social media meetup group. This is our last one for 2025, but we will definitely be having more social media meetup groups in 2026. Just wanted to say that the dates will be coming, and I wanted to reiterate that we have these quarterly right now, but if anyone is interested in us having these more often, either every 2 months or every month, I'm more than willing to have co-host with me come on board and help us make sure that we can have more of these. And then, like I said before, we had one that was in person. I'd love to have another in-person one next year, just one. Social media meetup group should be online, I think, so that we can talk more about social media and share our own examples of what we're doing. So next year we'll have more of this. And the one other thing I wanted to mention about the chamber is that our annual meeting is coming up on November 5th, which I believe is a Wednesday. And that is from, I know that it starts at 11:30, so I'd say the doors open around 11:15. Come in, get some food, hear about the state of the chamber. Is that what I think we're calling it? The state of the organization, state of the chamber. So we have some really great things that we're going to be doing in 2026, and I'm super excited. Also, hopefully you can come meet our newest board member, Maria. That would be really great.
Thanks to the CuyEast Chamber sponsors who help make everything we do possible. Find more ways to grow at CuyEast.org.